Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today on protecting your brand. We have a really exciting webinar up ahead. We have some great speakers, Frederic Saint-Louis from Activo, and we also have Greg Guest from Fidel, and it's a really exciting topic. The topic today is on being able to track your content as it progresses out into the post-distribution, post-production stages. So how do you find and take action on your content, whether it's one day, 1 week, 1 month, or multiple years out beyond the campaign? So Greg and Frederic have a great presentation planned, as well as a demonstration on how you potentially can handle this issue. So I'm gonna turn it over first to you, Frederic. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, so thank you, David. So really appreciate this time. So on my side, I'm here, CEO and founder of Activo, which is an independent and agnostic company in France, but more and more we are working also for beyond France. And finally, our mission is really to help customers to find the right path to the DAM systems, or PIM or CMS, more or less. From content creation to distribution. And so delighted also to be a partner of Fidel since a couple of time, and there are a couple of jobs that we are doing with some companies just like SignYet, etc. Really appreciate every time to be with Greg to share some insightful, and especially as soon as we are talking about Fidel technology. So in fact, one thing is sure today, and it's just the title of our webinar. One of the things that most of the brands today they are searching for, of course, is to gather the assets, to organize their content. And today we have some more and more rich content, high definition content, whatever it's pictures, videos, and etc. And something we can say today, and this is one of the analytics we have here at the bottom from Good Content, is really that I would say nearly 100% of brands they need to spend the time in order to manage this content strategy, and at least they need to protect this content, and they need to track the content outside, because this is one thing to get your content inside the DAM. This is one of the things to know how this the life cycle of the asset, and finally how the assets are used alongside the different channels. Next. And finally, for most of the top management today, and this is some interesting report you can find on McKinsey, is that it's a real thought for most of the C-level today to find the way and the organization to protect this information. So of course the subject is super wide, because it's all about the security of the contents, it's all about the distribution. We know that most of the brands today, they have to face different attacks, etc. And I would say even today, it's even more a big question for most of the brands, how I can secure my content, but how I can also try this content outside of a DAM. And as you know, today, the DAM is really at the heart of the enterprise, at the heart of the enterprise. So assets are used in PIM system, in CMS, in brand portals, and etc. So anytime people, they can try to track this content, to pick up the content. So, and most of the brands today, they need to know how this content is consumed. So this slide is something I think that you saw a couple of times among different webinars, but finally, as I'm saying every time, simplicity and clarity. So which means that today, one of the challenges we have is to gather and to organize all these contents. And so, and most of brands today, they are not a museum managing some simple assets as a gallery view. So it's a large content. We saw, as for example, on our side, we are working with brand luxury. You have to manage very large TIFF. You have more and more to manage 4K videos. And today the DAM is really at the core to manage this content. So, and after years, what we can see is the DAM is capable to do more things. So it's not all about metadata, which is of course very important. It's not all about the ingest of these large assets, but more and more you have to find a way to reuse these contents, and especially alongside the sustainability, etc., which is an important subject today. So we have raw flow capabilities in order to manage the approval cycle of your contents. And then, of course, you have all these distributions. So we see more and more connectors because brands want to use their content and not trying to download the content, upload in the CMS, and etc. And of course, something where I can say at the top is all about AI. And I would say alongside the ChatGPT things, a lot of people, they are trying to make the dam, I would say, clever, because at that moment, we have some very static things and we see some good improvement this year. So we try and we are hoping that the dam will be smarter in the next months. And at the end, you have all these distribution channels, so which is very important. We have customers as, for example, they have to manage hundreds of channels, okay? And that's a real challenge in order to use the right content at the right time in the right channel. So it's all this lifecycle management, which is really at the core of most of the brands today. So this one is something I like very much because it's, as soon as we're talking about DAM system, it's of course all about metadata. So it's metadata driven. I know that most of you will still like to get some folders everywhere, but I think the time and somehow is over. And the only solution to drive this content is to use metadata. And metadata especially is one at the core of the funnel technology, because finally, when we are looking at metadata, we have different ones. So of course, we are PTC since 1965, which is, I would say, most of the time, is one of the standard in this DAM market. We don't have not so much. But thanks to IPTC, XMP, EXIF, and any custom metadata linked to your projects, you can really manage your content smarter and you can track this content. Because of course, we are the system will be capable to, thanks to a link, to track the assets with all these properties. So it's very important to get all this one. And also one remark is today, and since last 2 years, IPTC is used by Google to track the assets. Okay, so it's very important to be able to manage all of them in your assets. Stage is yours, Nagari.
Okay. Thank you very much. And it's great to be here with you today, Frederick. We go way back in the DAM community, known each other for a long time. Always a pleasure to share the stage with you. So thanks for doing this today with us. And thanks to everybody for joining today. I'm Greg Guest. I'm Vice President of Product Management at Fidel, responsible for our cloud-based products for brand compliance and rights management. This is a really fascinating topic we're talking about today. So thanks for setting the stage there properly, Frederick. A lot of what Frederick was talking about is going to become evident as we move through a few more slides, and then we're going to jump into some demonstration to show you kind of the tools that are available that can help you in terms of tracking your content once it's post-distribution. So, yeah, I think a lot of people, with the speed that the world is moving at today, you get into that habit of, I got to get content, I got to create content and get it out the door. I got to get that content published. And a lot of times we publish that content, move on to the next, because there's something right behind it, right? There's another campaign, there's another product, there's another brand coming right behind it. So, but, you know, what are the risks of publishing and just moving on? And why is that not really the best mode to operate in? You know, one of the top reasons is litigation, right? So you publish something, you publish it haphazardly, you forget about it, and it's either published in a way that shouldn't be used, or time goes on, you forget about it, it expires, and you find yourself, you know, being sued for misuse of content. Major risk, and I know many companies, you know, have faced that risk. But there are some other reasons as well, not to kind of publish and just forget about what you published. One is to enforce your governance policies around your content. So to make sure that over time, your content remains in adherence to whatever your governance policies are about how and where and why that content should be used. You might be working with partners. So having that compliance from your partners really requires a good measure of monitoring that content to see, are my partners using my content in the right way? So instead of just sending your content out to your partners and forgetting about it, you might want to check up on how they're using it. So make sure they're using it in the right way. Make sure they're using it in a way that's consistent with your brand. And anybody that's responsible for publishing your content and developing those publishing strategies around your brand assets, to make sure that there's a consistency there. And that's things like packaging, logos, things like that, making sure your message is consistent visually, as well as whatever your current message is or story that you're telling to your customers, making sure that that's consistent across your brand assets. And then as you roll out campaign after campaign and different initiatives, making sure that that content is relevant to what you're doing and to what you're trying to accomplish and what your strategy is. So there's a lot of reasons not to just publish your content, move on to the next project, and forget about it. And you might find that over time, there are certain events that can occur that really cause you to need to know, sometimes very urgently, where your content's been published and how it's been used. And there's a variety of different things that could cause you to have that that need. One would be something like a rebranding. So, and I think the statistic I heard was every large company goes through some sort of rebranding every 5 to 10 years or something. So, so there's a good chance you're going to experience a rebranding of your corporate messaging or your brand assets, either at a brand level or even at a corporate level. And when you do that, it's important that you kind of go out and get everything that had the old messaging and the old branding, and be able to swap that out. And you can't do that if you don't know where everything is and where that content's being used. Similarly, if you have an old campaign that needs to get sunset and you're launching a new campaign, you might need to know where all those old campaign assets are to make sure that you pull them down. So you're not working against your new campaign, or you're not having stale content out there that might be related to some event like the Olympics or the Super Bowl or something, campaign that's still out there and kind of makes no sense to have out there. Big one that we see is expiring talent contracts. So you have talent agreements that give you the rights to use their likeness or their content in a certain way. And inevitably, those agreements typically will expire, and that might cause you to have to scramble to go out and find content and pull it down. And ideally, you're doing that, ahead of it expiring. And we're going to see kind of how you can do that with some of the tools we're going to look at in the demo. And another one that happens all too often is you have an ambassador, a spokesperson, something occurs in the public press related to that person, and you need to make a change as far as your spokesperson. Could be, and that might be some sort of scandal that happens that needs you to make a change, or it could be some sort of opportunity. For example, your spokesperson wins an Oscar or something, so you want to double down on that spokesperson. In that case, you're going to need to know where that person was used and where that content was published, so that you can either pull it down or you can maximize it. And in the demo, we're going to look at a scenario along those lines and see how you can do that. And then just generally, when rolling out any kind of new channel strategy, you might have a need to survey and analyze the content that you've got out there in that particular channel to make sure that your strategy is cohesive and that it makes sense. So these are just a number of events that might occur on a day-to-day basis, sometimes surprise you and cause you to need to go out and find all content of a certain type or across a certain channel very quickly, so that you can react to that event. So let's take a little poll. I like to keep these sessions as interactive as possible, considering we're on a Zoom, but like to pull you into the festivities here. So I'm curious how many of you on the webinar have experienced one or more of these events, and you can select all the ones that you have experienced in your career or in your day-to-day work that you're doing. So, have you had a rebranding at your company? Have you had campaign issues around sunsetting campaigns? Have you experienced issues with expiring talent contracts? Have you had a scandal or an opportunity with your brand ambassador? So curious to see if any of you are struggling with these issues. So just give you a minute to make your selection, and then we'll see what the results are. Okay, thank you. Okay, interesting results. Okay, so like, as I said, rebranding happens frequently at companies. So we're seeing 73% of you have experienced rebranding. Also, you're doing a lot of campaigns, I imagine. So over half of you working on old campaigns and working on new campaigns, putting old campaigns to sleep. And then expiring talent contracts, 30%, very significant number of you struggling with that. Good, only about 13% of you dealing with ambassador issues, and 27% for rolling out strategies. So obviously, all of you in some way or another have experienced one or more of these types of events, obviously. So you already know how impactful they can be and how challenging it can be to react to those. And going back to what Frederick was saying about, having more and more types of content in your DAM, especially a ton of video, but all kinds of new content that's, coming about every day, 4K, et cetera, different formats, different versions. And then you put that together with all the distribution channels, which of course are also new channels every day that are coming out, new ways to make your content available. And you put that all together, and it's not even like finding a needle in a haystack. It's like finding a needle in a pile of needles, right? So very, very challenging to keep track of where your content's going and which versions of which assets are where. And you really, can't do it just manually. It's too much data to do. So you really need tools that are going to help you have that ability to track your content on a post-distribution basis. So one more poll just to get some feedback from you all again, and then I won't bother you anymore with these polls. But just curious, how many different sites that you publish your content to. So that could include your corporate or brand website, your Facebook, your Instagram, YouTube, e-commerce sites, partner sites. Just on average, how many sites are you publishing a particular asset or campaign to? Curious to see what the scope is here of how many sites you're dealing with. And really, whether you're dealing with 5, 10, 20, 40, over 40, the challenge is the same. But it just gets a little, more data, the larger volumes you get. But the requirements that we're talking about today and the tools we're showing will apply at any level. So thank you for that response. Looks like most of you are in that 0 to 5 or 5 to 10 range, actually a lot in the 10 to 20. So somewhere in the 0 to 20, which is typical with what we see when we ask people this. Usually people are doing around, on average, I would say 10 or so. So that's right in the middle of what we're seeing here. But a large number of you also doing 20 to 40, and smaller number of you doing 40 plus, but really when you get up to 40 plus, you're talking big companies. Some of the big companies we work with are literally, doing hundreds of sites when you get to be kind of that large global brand size. But looks like most of you are in that 5 to 10 range. So thank you for that. Interesting. So let me talk about kind of what you need to do to solve this challenge or to meet this challenge. There's some key requirements that you need in order to be able to track your content post-distribution and react to these events that we're talking about. The first is to be able to capture data and information about your talent and the rights related to that talent. And that's for all of your assets, photos, videos, or any other types of assets, to be able to capture information about who are the people that have that are the rights holders that are granting me the rights to use this content. Is it a model? Is it a photographer, an actor? Is there music, stock photography, location, whatever it is? Being able to capture information about that rights holder and the rights that are granted to you is going to be key to being able to assess and react to events like expirations or misuse. You're then going to need a way to be able to match the assets that has that talent in it to assets that are published out there, so that you can look at a particular site or a particular social media feed and look at assets there and say, okay, I see an asset here, and it is the asset that I have in my dam, and it is the asset that has this particular model or photographer associated to it. So that requires some sort of image matching capability that will be able to automate that process of saying, yeah, I found your assets from your dam on a site or on a social media feed. And then third, you're going to want to have an automated way to set up tracking for that, right? So you don't have to go out and look at every social media feed manually with your eyes or your website, or keep checking your website. You ideally want a tool that can go out and on a regular basis, periodic basis, scan those sites and track all the assets that are on them. So whether it's your website or your Facebook feed or YouTube, you want something that you can point at that and say, okay, scan this daily, weekly, monthly, whatever frequency you need to look at what assets are published there, and then tell me if any of my assets are published there. And then you need to be able to track what the results are. So you need to be able to track that usage and show where an asset was used and relate it back to that rights information to say, are there any violations based on missing rights or expiration dates that have passed? And ideally, you want to be able to run reports that you can get on some sort of regular basis or automated basis, so you can stay on top of that usage, you can monitor it, and you can identify any potential risks or expirations before they happen, or very quickly if you need to react to an event that's occurring that's impactful. So those are kind of the key elements that you need to think about when you're setting up a post-distribution tracking strategy. And we're going to see how those all come into play in our demo. And so let's get into it. Our demo focuses around our spokes model, a brand ambassador for our fictional Susie Blue lifestyle brand. And her name is Willow Lent, and she's our fictional brand ambassador. And we're going to focus in on an event around her so that we can show how you would react to something where you needed to, for example, find all content related to a certain talent and make an adjustment related to it. So in this case, Willow is one of our brand ambassadors, and she's great. But we did recently hear that she signed some other big deal with another company, not necessarily a direct competitor of ours even, but something that's going to put her in the public eye a lot. And we're questioning whether we really want her to be the forward face of the brand at this time, because she's going to really get a lot of exposure, and maybe it's too much exposure. So we're doing, you can imagine, you know, any kind of event that might happen around a brand ambassador. We're trying to go with one that's a little more vanilla, if you will. So for that reason, I need to check my assets that have Willow wherever they are, and assess that as part of my marketing strategy to identify the images and the videos, analyze the usage, analyze the rights, and devise a strategy based on this event that's occurring that affects my brand ambassador. So let's jump into the demo. I'm going to demonstrate using Brand Vision platform, which is Fidel's end-to-end brand compliance platform for content services, rights management, and content tracking. There's lots of tools out there, right? So make sure you understand the requirements and look at what you need. The tools you're going to see today in Brand Vision also can be integrated with any DAM system. So the notion of content tracking, you need to think in terms of integration, because you're most likely on a DAM system, and whatever DAM you're using hopefully is able to support an integration where you can use services like this, like the content tracking you're going to see today, to plug into your DAM and help you track those assets from your DAM. So I'm going to demonstrate in Brand Vision here, and I've got a bunch of content set up here for the demonstration already. And as I mentioned, the first requirement that you're going to need to focus on is being able to capture information about the talent and the rights related to your assets. And again, you might be doing some of that in your DAM, but typically the data that you need to capture around talent and rights management is going to be pretty complex in a lot of cases. And so having a dedicated talent/rights management system where you can capture that data is a great tool to consider. And again, if you can find something like Brand Vision that plugs into DAMs, You can not put that burden on your damn metadata, but you can store that in a built for purpose type system such as this. So here I can basically track my talent and all my talent information here in like a talent Rolodex. And so, you know, and it's all searchable. So it's very easy for me to find somebody. If I'm looking for Willow specifically, I can search for Willow and I can come in and find my information on Willow Lent. She's my spokesmodel. I have some different information, contact information, agent information, things like that. I can have links, her social links. I can have headshots, attach a whole bunch of information, as much as I want to capture around my talent. I can capture here, and I can also instantly see all the assets that I have related to that brand ambassador. Now, in this scenario, I probably would have many, many more related to her if she's one of my major brand ambassadors. But for purposes of this demo, keep it simple and just have two that we can focus in on here. One is an image, and one is a 30-second video spot. And we'll circle back to those in a minute. So the other thing I want to be able to track is not just the information about the talent, but the information about the talent agreement that I have with that talent and the rights that I have associated to that agreement. So here I have a talent agreement for Willow that we signed for our beauty campaign. And if I go in and I look at that agreement, I can see some high-level information about it, like an execution date, a start date, an end date. This seems to be open in perpetuity. And then I can see the rights that I've got associated to this agreement. And I can see that I've got social media rights for all territories from Willow for a certain period of time. And I've got digital rights for all territories for specific digital distribution channels, such as my brand website, etc. So those are the rights that I've got from Willow based on the agreement that we've signed with her. And then I can again see under assets, all the assets that are tied to that agreement. And by virtue of being attached to that agreement, these assets now will inherit those rights that are detailed on that agreement. So I'll know what the rights are for those assets. So let's dig down one level into the asset now. So if I go down and I look at, for example, the 30-second spot here, now I'm looking at that record for that particular asset. And again, the asset may be stored in your DAM and linked over to here through an external ID from your DAM system, so that you're able to do all this based on the assets in your DAM. And so here I have my 30-second spot. And if I look at the contributors for this, I can see there's actually two models associated to this, Willow and Madeline. So not only am I able to track the talent info for Willow, but because I'm also tracking other talent, when there's a video clip that has multiple people in it, and this, for example, has Madeline and Willow in it as well. It's got two different talent in it. I can attach them both to that asset so that the rights and the agreements are inherited from both. So this has two agreements applied to it, and the rights as a result derive from each of those talent. And then your answer on your rights management or your clearance or your expiration will always be based upon that data. So so again, important to be able to capture all that data and put it in. As long as you want to get the answer out, you're going to need that data and a system that can give you the answer around that, right? So that's all the data I've captured around my talent, my agreements. I've made all those connections to the data. I've got a very clear picture of what the rights are for this video. Now let's get back to the tracking, right? So if I want to track this asset and see where it was used, I can click on my usage tab here. And when I do that, it's going to show me everywhere that I've published this asset or where this asset has been used, whether I published it or not. It's going to show me the sites that it found my asset on. And I can see that that on YouTube, it found the video on YouTube here, and I can see that it's nearing expiration. It's 100% match, which means it's the full video. So if I look at this actual video matching, I can see that it's highlighted in red because the full entire video was found on YouTube. And I can see that it'll give me a timestamp, and again, it's 0 to 30. Tell me exactly where it found that match, and it's nearing expiration, right? So it's basically saying I've got rights that are coming up for expiration. And if I look at that, I can see that this is coming up for expiration at the end of the month. So I can look at that and I can go, okay, it's on YouTube. It's good through the end of the month. You know what? Let's leave that there for now. And let it play out since we've paid for that, and then we'll pull it down at the end of the month. So I can make an informed decision there on that, based on that. Now, it also found it here on this beauty shop till you drop, same video. But here I can see that the match is a little bit lesser percentage. It's only about a 20% match or something like that, which means it found part of the video. So if I look at the match there, I can see that it found about 20 seconds or so of the video was a match, but not the whole video. And if I look at that video, I'll see that it's actually a different video. It's not the same video, but somewhere in here, there's Willow. And so they edited Willow into a video with other folks and other stuff that had nothing to do with that video. So this is a partner site, beauty shop partner site. And so what they apparently did was made an edit of the video and put it on their site. So we don't have the rights to do that. And it's telling us, you don't have the rights to do that. So there I can immediately reach out to that partner and say, hey, this is a no-no. You can't cut our video, recut our video and post it on your site. We don't have the rights to do that. So we can pull that down. And then finally, the third one here is the SusieBlue.com website. And it found this on the website here on our corporate website. And even though it's valid, so I do have the rights to post it here, it's very prominent at the top of the website. And because, we might want to pull back on Willow, I might not want her featured here at the very top of my website that prominently. So I can reach out to my web team. There she is at the top of the website. I can reach out to the web team and say, you know what, we want to swap this video. Let's pull this video down and swap it with something else. And so very easily by coming in here, I'm able to get that information, make a decision about those different channels, and either pull down that content or leave that content where it's at. So very powerful to be able to see that all in one place. Now, if I go back to Willow's agreement for 1 second and I look at the assets, we also had an image here as well. And so you want to be able to track images as well, because even though video, more and more video, you're still doing things around images as well. And so if I take a look at this asset, which is just an image, I can see there's only a single contributor this time because Willow is the only one in it. And if I look at the usage here, I can see two things I found here. One is the SusieBlue.com website again, where we do have the rights to use that as we were just looking at. So again, if I check that out, if I scroll down somewhere here, I probably will see that image on this site for Willow. There it is. And so it found this on our website. And again, we can leave that there. We can pull that. We probably want to pull that down as well, just like with the video, say, we don't want her featured this prominently. So even though we have the rights, the web team can pull that down. And then in addition, it found it posted on our Facebook. So if I look at the Facebook post here, I can see that it found this on Facebook. And if I look at it on Facebook, I can actually see the whole post here as well that was posted on Facebook. And the interesting thing about this that you can see is that it is the photo of Willow, but it's been mocked up and modified and cropped, right? So it's important that you have a technology that can actually identify that, do that visual matching there. Even if it's got text layovers or it's been cropped, et cetera, you still want to be able to find it. And so this found it on Facebook. Again, it's nearing expiration. Here, it's going to expire at the end of the month. But unlike the YouTube example, Facebook, you can share things, it can go viral. So we better pull that down, even though it's going to expire soon. And we don't want to leave that up any longer. So we pull that right down. We contact our social team and say, please take down that post. So very easily, within minutes, I was able to come in, ask about Willow, find Willow's content, see where it's used, and make decisions about it. And that's the power of having a tool like this in place. So how do we do that? Well, we did it through the tracking, as I mentioned. So having the ability to set up a tracking monitor that can look at all the sites where my content gets published. So that can include my brand website, SusieBlue.com, my Facebook feeds, Instagram, my blogs, my YouTube, my Amazon retail pages, my retail partners. And I can point the tracker at that and it will go out automatically and index those sites and show me everything that it found on the site. So for SusieBlue.com, for example, it found all these images on Susie Blue, and a lot of them aren't going to have anything to do with you, right, on these sites, but some of them are. So if you want to zoom in on everything that was just matched to your assets in your dam, here they are. And so it found all these images on the website that are in use from your dam, and it gives you that very quick look at that, and then gives you that information on an asset by asset detail as well. And same thing for videos. So these are all videos that were found on the SusieBlue.com website, and it matched a number of them here as well. And you can see it'll match, different lengths, different sizes, etc., and find what you're looking for as well. You can also do some advanced setups to do things like if you're looking for a particular pattern in the URL that's related to a brand or a particular celebrity name in the description, you can set up some advanced stuff here. So the more tools you have to be able to focus that telescope in on the site and the content you're looking for, the better off you're going to be, because there's content everywhere on the internet, right? So being very precision focused is important there. So there's one more use case I wanted to share related to image matching, which is kind of interesting, and we hear a lot, which is, let's say, for example, you get an email from Willow's agent, and Willow's agent came across a photo of Willow on the internet in a place where they're saying you don't have the rights to use it. So you get a cease and desist letter from Willow's agent saying, hey, you can't use this content in this way. And a lot of times you'll get that in an email with an attachment of an image, and you don't know what that image is. You don't know if it's, if you put it there or what it is. So you need to find out information about it. So having the ability to use that matching technology on the fly, on demand as well, to be able to identify visually an image is very useful. So if they sent me this image and they said, you don't have the rights to use this, I can plug it in here into the system and it can instantly find it. And it did find it here, right? And it says beauty product campaign Willow Lent. So yeah, it is Willow Lent there. Okay, well, let's look for a little more information on it. So when I dig down into that asset record, I can see that, yes, it is Willow, and we can see her there in the photo. But, who are the contributors to this? Well, it's actually licensed by Get Me Images, which is a stock agency. So I actually have an agreement with the stock agency that gives me the rights to use it. So I do actually have the rights to use this. It wasn't part of my campaign that I shot. It was part of a package of images that I licensed from a stock photography. But I have all that data right here. And therefore, I can instantly say, I want to generate, a document here and send it back and reply to that email. And I can generate that document, and I can open up that document, and it'll have all the information that I need to very quickly respond to that query from the agent, saying, here's the asset in question that you questioned, but here are the rights that we do have. Here's who the rights come from. And I can send that back to them and handle that case. So pretty interesting little similar related case around image matching that I wanted to share, because a lot of folks do deal with that issue on a regular basis. And the last thing I wanted to cover is we talked about being able to get reporting on this data. So you want to have the ability not just to gather all that data and provide it through your user interface or APIs as well to your users or to other systems, but you want to have some good reporting around it. So for example, I can open my usage violation report here, and this will actually show me all of my usage violations that were found. So it'll show me everything it found, what's the asset name, where's the site that was found on, and the domain, how much of a match was it, and what the violation type was. Is it expired or missing rights, et cetera. So really powerful to be able to get this type of reporting. And then I can subscribe to that. So I can set that up to send that report to me on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in a variety of formats, so that, I can get that in my inbox and be warned ahead of time. Again, it doesn't help once something's expired. I mean, yeah, you want to get it down as quickly as possible, but you really want to get it down before it expires, because once it's expired, you're immediately in violation. So you want to have that ability to get that info on a regular basis. And the more reporting you have, the better off you're going to be. So you want to have rights expiration reports that can show you, when you have rights that are expiring and agreements that are expiring for certain assets. And again, be able to, export all of this in various formats and share it via email and things like that with folks. So that's the demo. Pretty powerful stuff, and hopefully, gives you something to think about the tools that you need, or the types of technology that are out there that you can employ to keep track of your assets beyond publication, or when one of these big impactful events happens around your brand or your brand ambassador. So I hope you found that interesting. I'll turn it back over to you, Frederick, for a little wrap up.
That's a great demonstration as usual. So it's I think it's really a clear presentation, and just experience why I don't know so many systems capable finally to derive in a single dashboard all this information. So, and I think what you said is also very important. It's really driven by some easy integration, so you can put at any levels of your system. So finally, what we need to highlight is the key benefits of this tracking. So the demonstration itself speaks for that, but it's very important to protect the propriety and copyright. So we know that, and something I missed to say at the beginning, but one of the things we have, and thanks to metadata, we can, especially in the IPTC, you can manage copyrights, credits, different information regarding the photographer, the contract, and etc. So it's very important to pay attention to the copyright, because this is, I would say, more or less our photographer is paid, but also much more important, this is part of your brand content of you. So the other thing is really to also I would say to desert an unauthorized content use. So it's very important to know how the content is used, etc. To know finally here what is the ownership of this content. Mainly, I will say, and I think your KPIs are super useful on the daily basis, on weekly, etc. It's very important to track and to monitor this usage and distribution. Okay, it gives you much more information. And I see so many customers using DAM systems. We have sometimes some basic information that not really useful, how much time they connect or log in, log out, or download, etc. But it's very much more important what you are highlighting is this usage of the assets. And finally, this is a clear presentation of your KPIs to ready to prove that your brand protection strategy works. Okay. So as usual, because this is a technology that you can put at the top of your system, so it's, I will say, it's one more things to highlight the fact that you need a DAM system. Okay, so, and I think, as we said at the beginning, it's not because you have thumbnail at the top of a web browser that you have a DAM system. DAM system is an engine for your assets and metadata. So it's very important, whatever using the FADL one or any integration inside all the large and top enterprise vendor available with your FADL technology to use such a DAM system, because you can do so much more. I see so many people that now they are, because they need folders, simplicity, they don't want to spend too much time, they don't want to use librarians to enrich their content. So I'm a little bit in trouble when I see people trying to use bugs or things like that. So okay, you can share, but it's not super smart to manage your content. And of course, at the end of the day, again, it's all about the metadata to control. So really spend the day, I would say the time to enrich your content. I see so many customers, sometimes they just connect with a PIM system. We have a product code. I can find an image with just with product code. Okay, so it's very important to ready to enrich your content. The more you enrich your content with custom metadata, the more you are capable to track your asset, the more you're capable to get a vision how your content is used. That's my last word, really.
Very good last word, for sure. Okay, so if you want to check this technology out, you can actually send us a URL for your website and email it to us at solutions@fadel.com. We'll plug it into the tracking system that we just demonstrated, and we'll send you back a little brief report on what it found, just so you can kind of dip your toe in and see how that works and what kind of data you get back when you point it at your website. So we'd love to show you how it works and check it out. And that's absolutely free. If you act today, just send us your URL and we'll send you something back.
You have to test it.
What's that, Frederick?
I said you just have to test it.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions, Debbie? Do we have some questions to answer?
Yes, we have a few questions coming in, and I just wanted to remind everybody, if you have any more questions for Greg or Frederic, please send them in through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So while we see if we have any further questions, we did receive a question on, are you modifying my asset with anything, an invisible watermark or anything?
Yeah, good question. There's different technologies out there. Some of them do use, pixels or things like that, or, hidden watermarks to track content. The demonstration I did today doesn't use that type of technology. It actually is a visual image matching technology that creates a signature of the visual image and does a visual match of the image signatures. And that's both for the images and for the videos. We're doing that in the similar way. We're just creating a lot of keyframes from the video and doing visual keyframe matching to identify the video matches. So we're not, in either case, images or videos. The Fidel tool isn't putting anything into the asset at all as far as pixels or things like that. But there are, some very good tools out there that use that technique. And I think both approaches have, pros and cons to them.
Thank you. So we have another question that came in about, can you give us some names of dams into which you integrate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of dam partners we work with. From the larger dams like OpenText and Adobe. We have integration with Aprimo. We have integration with Binder. We have some integration with Widen, I believe. What am I missing, Debbie?
I believe Media Beacon and Widen.
Media Beacon, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that list is always expanding. Yep. Love to know what dams you're on and who we should be talking to about building an integration.
Excellent, thanks. Another question about the technology is, can you find assets on Amazon?
Yes, that's true. That wasn't really in my demo today. We didn't use Amazon as an example, but we do track assets on Amazon, images and videos as well. And it's a little more complicated. So the thing about tracking that you'll find if you start to look into this world is that it's very site dependent. So because sites are different, sites have different restrictions on how you can crawl them, how you can index them, how you can use their APIs. Amazon is a site that requires very specific crawling in the way. If you want to get the results that you want, you kind of have to develop something that works specifically for Amazon. And so we've taken the time to do that at Fidel, and we'll be continuing to add. We call it a premium site, so it has a complexity to it, and so we continue to add to that list of sites that we can track at that level. And that would be things like Target, Walmart, the big retail sites, mostly. Brand websites are much more straightforward. Social media works completely differently because it's all API driven. And you can't really just crawl a Facebook. You have to call an API to get the feed that you're looking at. Same thing with Instagram, TikTok, etc. And typically you can only look at your own feeds or pages, things that you actually are an administrator of. You can't kind of crawl all of Facebook or all of Instagram. They don't let you do that. So there's different restrictions on all the sites, but to answer your question, yes, we do handle Amazon, and we'll continue to handle the big retail sites.
Excellent. So we have about 3 more questions.
Great.
Next question is for you, Frederic. The question is, how are you finding the clients you work with today are solving for this problem?
I will say, to be honest, it's a topic which is really at the top, but I will say, because I know finally the European market and US markets, it's more something which is leveraged by US and UK brands, definitely. So it's still sometimes a pain to explain to our customers that they have to protect the brands. So it's and finally, it's all about the vision and strategy. So in the meantime, we see so many people, even some people, they have DAM systems. They are using retransfer or box things to share the content. So how you can protect your brand if you have no governance inside your company, and just to bring some guidance. Hey guys, use your system to protect, first of all, your assets, okay? Because any assets, it's a link. So this link can be private, can be public. So at any time you can control them, okay? Or just to update because you have revision management. So, but regarding this really advanced capabilities, so for sure, it's a big item for brand luxury, as we know, and we are used to in Paris to get most of them, and they need you, they like your technology, definitely. For the rest of the people, and especially for retailers, it's I think it's maybe for us to do more leveraging, or more to provide more educational some content to explain them how it works. So because sometimes they, especially in France, they want to get everything for nothing sometimes, or it's a challenge, definitely. But I think it's very important, and this is our mission to every time during the workshop we have on customer side to explain how it's important, okay? And at the end of the day, if you're looking in the market, you don't have so many solutions, okay? And if you are looking deep dive in the market, it's maybe you that has the best experience ever. And as I said, of course, it's great to get some ready integration, but API-wise, you can do so many things today. It's not a huge job. It doesn't cost a fortune to do such integration. So spend the time. I will say, stump the consultant, call us, and we can fix your problem.
Excellent. Next question, Greg, I think this is for you. Instagram recently launched Threads. So how quickly can you track assets on new platforms and new channels such as Threads?
Yeah, again, it's dependent on the channel, and you know what's available from an API perspective, and what's you know, what kind of restrictions they have and things like that. So whenever there's a new channel, we have to assess it and look at it, and it typically requires some development or programming to be able to connect to those. But as Frederic was saying, API connectivity these days is very easy, and you're talking about, you know, Meta, right? So they obviously will have full API enabled platform ready to go, and so it's not Threads. We will be looking at that. It's not all that different from Facebook or Instagram, most likely, which we already have. So it's a similar methodology. So I don't anticipate that being a challenge at all to add that in. But again, in that particular case, but it is dependent on the platform. For example, we did have Twitter running. We had to disable Twitter just because of the changes that Twitter made regarding their APIs and the cost to use their APIs. They added a cost that made it kind of exorbitant to provide that service to customers. So so you never know, you know, what the provider is going to do. But Threads looks to be pretty stable, and you know, thanks for already getting that on our roadmap for us.
And I think this is our final question, unless any more come in the next minute. So regarding museum and art collections, can you mark digital assets so that their usage can be tracked?
Yeah, well, again, and I love museum and art collection folks. We meet so many of you at the DAM shows. It's great. I love that whole corner of this world. Again, we don't mark anything. Like, our technology doesn't really mark anything. So it relies on one of two things to be able to track your assets. Either you store your assets in our content repository, which we do have available in Brand Vision, so you can store the content directly in the repository, and it'll be available for tracking through the tracking tool. Or if you're using an external DAM, it's really just, again, being able to get that data about that asset in our system and relate it to that external ID in your DAM. And again, that's typically done through a connector to the DAM that is done through an API. So whenever you add an asset to your DAM, if it's something that you want to track rights for or do content tracking on, you specify that in your metadata. This is rights managed, or this is being tracked. And that facilitates an API call, which creates a record of that in Brand Vision. And again, we don't need to store the asset, the underlying actual asset. All we need is a pointer back to it. And for the image, well, let me rephrase that. If you're tracking video, we need the video because we need to fingerprint the video and do the keyframe matching. And if you're doing image matching, it's a very small thumbnail will do. So we don't necessarily need the high res versions of the assets that are in your DAM, but we do need, for tracking, we do need a thumbnail of an image or a certain resolution of the video to be able to get good results on the video tracking. But again, very easy to set up, whether you want to holistically use Brand Vision and just put your assets in there for tracking, or whether you want to feed them in from an external DAM system to facilitate that. So hopefully that answered the question.
Great. Well, at this point, we don't have any more questions. So Greg, Frederic, always a pleasure. I want to thank you for sharing your insights with your peers and the community of DAM professionals. I know we look forward to seeing all of you at upcoming events. Frederic's company Activo has an upcoming event that's always very exciting called On DAM Paris. I believe that's in October.
No, it's November 21st and 22nd.
Apologies, November 21st and 22nd. So if you'd like to make a trip to Paris, or if you live in Paris, then I hope to see you there. And as well, we would love to kind of help you test out the concept of tracking your content. So send in a URL to solutions@fidel.com, and we will go ahead and do a scan and kind of share results with you. All right, everybody, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.